So I've gotten into this kind of bad habit recently of getting really excited about a book and then picking it up immediately and starting it, but never actually finishing it. And I was kind of looking through my document of all the books that I'm reading, and I realized that I'm in the middle of more books than I remembered, and for a number of different reasons, there's a lot of books in July that I know I'm gonna have to read, and so I want to go into July having fewer books that I've already started but haven't finished. So I'm gonna take this next week to try to finish as many of the books that I'm currently in the middle of as possible. So I figured I'd just start by sitting here and going through everything that I've got and kind of deciding what exactly is gonna happen. I've grabbed my laptop and now I'm just kind of looking through my document of all of my books, and I'm gonna look for the ones that are currently in progress. Cool, okay, I am in progress on 7 books, and I know I'm not gonna be able to finish them all over the course of the next 7 days. Like, that's a lot for me to read, but I want to see how much I can get done. So let's just walk through them now, and I'll talk to you about the ones that I'm definitely not going to read versus the ones that I think I want to finish and my goals for this video as a whole. So the first one on the list is Red Seas Under Red Skies by Scott Lynch. That is the second book in the Gentleman Bastard series. The first book is The Lies of Locke Lamora, and I read that in September and really liked it. But the second book felt really similar to the first one, so I sort of just lost steam on that one. The second book is Night Sky with Exit Wounds by Ocean Vuong. So this one I started last summer during the reading rush, and I was really enjoying, but I'm not that good at reading poetry. I wanted to take a lot of time with each poem, and so I made it, pretty much to the halfway point, but I haven't finished it, and I'd like to. The next book I've got on my list is Johnny Appleseed by Joshua Whitehead. Johnny Appleseed is about this Native American man in Canada, I think, working as a cyber sex worker and kind of fetishizing himself to make a living. And it was just pretty graphic and gruesome, and listening to it in audiobook form was kind of not the vibe for a while, but I wonder if I went back to it if it would be less off-putting. So we'll see. The next one on my list is A Man Called Uwe by Frederick Bachman. This is another audiobook kind of pause. This one, it follows this kind of crotchety old man. He starts out and he just seems like kind of grumpy, kind of bigoted, kind of a jerk. I think I didn't get far enough into the book to see more of his soft side, but when I'm hearing other people talk about the book, they're talking about how much he grows and how much you grow to love him, and I never really got to that point, and so I feel like I want to pick it back up, even though it's been months since I first picked it up, because I think I might like it more as his character grows, which I never got to see, really. Alright, the next one on this list is The Hero of Ages by Brandon Sanderson. So this is the third book in the Mistborn trilogy, and I finished the first 2 books over the course of like 2 weeks. And then the third one I started last March. It's been over a year and I have not finished it. So I don't quite remember why, but I just kind of paused it and it's not going super hot. I have not looked at it in pretty much a year at this point. The next 2 books on the list are books that I started more recently. The first one is Obit by Victoria Chang. So this book is a collection of poems, but every poem is kind of like in the form of an obituary. It's basically centered around a few really traumatic events in Victoria Chang's life. One is her mother's death, and one is her father having a stroke that basically causes him to lose his ability to speak. He kind of just speaks in gibberish. Every poem is structured like an obituary. It's really interesting and really beautiful, and I'm only a little bit into it, but I picked it up a couple of weeks ago. Just because it's not super plot driven, I wasn't like pulled to pick it right back up immediately because I wasn't like, oh, what's gonna happen next? But I do want to finish it because I was enjoying it, and I like the idea of the form and how she structured it. So I'm excited to pick this one back up eventually. We'll see if I finish it this week. The last one on the list is How to Pronounce Knife by Subankam Tamavongsa. So this one is a short story collection about being an immigrant in America and being an Asian immigrant in America and all these different stories. I read a book called Sour Heart by Jenny Zhang a while back, and that was also about Asian immigrants in America, and it was a collection of short stories as well. But I think this one does really effectively what Sour Heart failed to do, which is that every story is very different and it details really different experiences and is, from my experience, much more true to what the immigrant experience kind of looks like. I'm, again, about halfway through this one, but because it's a short story collection, again, there's no like central plot driving it all forward, and so I didn't feel like I had to pick this up. It's been about a month since I checked it out of the library, but I do want to finish it, and it is currently racking up fines, so I do really also have to finish it. Those are all the books that I'm currently in the middle of. Now let's talk through them a little bit. First, let's talk about the books that I know I'm not going to finish this week. The first one is Red Seas Under Red Skies. Just the fact that it has been so long since Scotland published a third book. I don't feel that motivated to keep going in the series because I feel like it's just going to end on a cliffhanger at some point anyway. And it's been so long since I read it, I'm just not that excited to pick it back up. So I think that one is just maybe an official DNF at this point. The second book that I know I'm not going to finish right now is Night Sky with Exit Wounds. That's not because I'm not enjoying it, but it's because I'm actually buddy reading it with my best friend. Her and I are going to try to read a couple poems a week or something and discuss them and go through it more carefully, and so I know I'm not going to read it just this week because I want to read it slowly with her. So that leaves me with 5 books that I'm in the middle of that I have to try to power through this week. The only book I know for sure that I'm going to finish is How to Pronounce Knife, and that is because it is due at the library yesterday, so I really need to get it done so I can return it. Other than that, everything is fair game. I'm just going to kind of read as I feel like reading over the course of the next week and kind of check back in with you as I finish books, hopefully, to let you know what my final thoughts were. So thank you for being here to keep me accountable, and I will check back in with you when I have an update. Okay, welcome to day 2 of this week where I'm supposed to be finishing all these books, and I have not yet read a single page, so off to a great start. But I am going to read right now. The book that I've decided to start with is How to Pronounce Knife, because as I mentioned before, it's overdue at the library and I want to return it. Even though I work at my library, I feel stressed about not returning it on time. So I want to finish this really soon. I have 100 pages left of it. I should be able to power through it pretty quickly. I will check back in with you once I have finished it, hopefully today before my workday starts, and hopefully I will be able to drop it off at the library today and not have any more fines on it. I am currently sitting in my car in the parking lot of my local library because I just finished How to Pronounce Knife and returned it. I was really blown away by this short story collection. Every story was really short, like maybe 14 book pages long, so really flash fiction, but I think the author, Suvankam Tumavangsa, just has a really good grasp of how to tell a compelling story in a very short amount of time, where many stories, even in just the last paragraph or sentence, really drove home a super strong punch that usually such a strong emotional impact cannot be dealt with only, 5-10 pages of build-up, but somehow she managed to do it. I think she just has a really good grasp of how to tell short fiction. This whole collection, I'd say, was a 4.5-star read for me. There were a couple stories that fell a little bit flat or I didn't quite love, but overall it was really compelling. Even though every short story was its own story, I still felt that forward push that I feel like I've been missing in the fiction that I've been reading recently. So I'm very glad to have actually finished that and read that and move on to my next book, which is still a TBD. Now it's time to go home and do work, and then if any more reading happens, you'll be the first to hear about it. Okay, it is day 3 of this week, and I have 3 updates for you. The first one is that both Johnny Appleseed and A Man Called Uva, which are 2 of the books that I'm currently in the middle of, I think part of the reason I didn't manage to finish them is because I started them both in audiobook form, and I'm pretty picky about what books I read in audiobook form, and I just don't think either of those are the best bet for me there. So I got them both as ebooks from my library, and I'm going to pick them up as ebooks going forward at some point. That's update number 1. Update number 2 is I kind of called an audible last night and decided to pick up The Hero of Ages, which, honestly, if you'd asked me at the beginning of this week which book was I least likely to read, it would have been that. I feel like it's just been this umbrella or storm cloud over my head for the last year that I didn't manage to finish it after enjoying the first 2 books so much. And I got 25% of the way through the book, so I'm not just starting it or anything. After reading it for a while last night, I think that I remember enough to just continue on where I left off and not reread anything, which is good because if I had to reread anything, I probably just would permanently DNF it, honestly. So today, my plan is to read some of The Hero of Ages and then also ideally finish Obit by Victoria Chang. This one is a poetry collection. It's pretty short. I don't have very much left. I want to sit down and read it all in one sitting, and I want to finish it sooner rather than later so I don't forget what I've already read. So my goal is to have finished Obit by the end of today and made some progress on Hero of Ages, and then I can start thinking about Johnny Appleseed and A Man Called Uva in the upcoming few days and hopefully pick up or finish one of those. Hello and welcome to 2 days later. It is Friday, and things have not gone exactly as expected. For starters, let's just talk about the reading that I've done. I have read 35 pages of Obit, and that is it. That is all I've read in the last day and a half since we last checked in, maybe. But in my defense, it was my birthday, and I spent a lot of time hanging out with people who I love, and I got some really wonderful presents from a bunch of different people, and some things I'm very excited about. So I'm going to show you a little haul right now, because I'm very excited about certain things. First of all, I got a very, very pretty book, and that is Space Truck by Paige Lewis. Paige Lewis is a poet. I first heard about this book from John Green, actually. He mentioned it in one of his videos. It's a poetry collection, and it's really pretty, and I'm very excited to pick it up at some point as I try to delve more into poetry. So that's one thing that I'm super excited about. Another thing that I'm super excited about is kind of like an arts and crafts thing, but I think it's absolutely lovely. And that's this like pack of really fucking fancy origami paper. I've never been that good at origami because I'm not that patient and good at like folding really precisely, or like I try really hard, I'm just bad at it. But this is like really gorgeous paper, and I'm very excited to try it and maybe make some pretty things. And then the third thing that I got, which is just absolutely hilarious and very on brand, is a neon sign that says, hold on, I'm gonna light it up for this because I think it's worth it. Okay, are you ready? It says, fuck off. I'm very excited about it. It's wonderful. Oh, it'll be a great addition to the apartment that I'm moving into soon. Very happy. And yeah, these are just some of the random little things that I've gotten that I'm excited about. But that's mostly what I was up to for the last couple of days, is spending time with loved ones and getting presents and stuff, which was very nice. But I didn't do that much reading. And I don't know if that's going to change today, but I think I'll do at least a little bit more. I don't know. We'll see the vibe. But that's what I've got for you right now. A little random things haul, which I'm very excited about. And that is it. I have a couple of important updates. First, I finished Obit by Victoria Chang. So the premise of this book is it's a poetry collection, but pretty much every poem is in the form of an obituary. Like this kind of vibe where it's that thin newspaper column look. And it's about kind of different deaths she's experienced. So the first death in the book is the death of her father's frontal lobe when he has a stroke and loses the ability to speak coherently. And it's about the death of her mother. And it kind of just like follows through her life and focuses on these really important dates when certain deaths happened or when she faced certain really difficult moments. I have two main things to say about this book. Since the form is kind of limiting, right, where you have this very geometric area to work with, and that it's about 2 or 3 key moments in her life for the entirety of the collection, it could get repetitive really fast. And I think it's a testament to how well she wrote this, that it didn't really get repetitive, or it only got repetitive very much near the end. And I have all these random like stickies and bookmarks throughout at different points of lines that I thought were really beautiful. Like, when language leaves, all you have left is tone. All you have left are smoke signals. I didn't know she was using her own body as wood. I mean, that's a really cool line. Or, I now know Earth is a hole, not a sphere, meant to be filled with bodies, not with thinking. Yeah, there's just some lines in this that are really beautiful, especially as somebody who's still kind of getting into poetry and who has found certain poetry collections to be a little bit boring, because, you know, if you lose attention for just a second or two, you just lose track of everything that you're reading, and it sort of starts to feel meaningless and like you're just reading to finish. I certainly went through peaks and valleys here, but in the moments where I was really focused in and locked in, I really loved this. I think this is another 4.5 star for me. And the only reason it's not a 5 star is because there were moments where I lost interest a little bit or dissociated from what I was reading and had to like try really hard to click back in. And I think that might just be a factor of me not really being used to reading poetry yet. So as I read more poetry, hopefully that will cease to be a problem. So I finished that today at work. And then I picked up A Man Called Ove. I was reading this on audiobook, and like I mentioned before, I wanted to read the physical book instead because I think the audiobook was going a little too slow for my taste. And I ended up reading a good chunk of it at work today. So this is what I'm going to be reading over the course of the next couple of days. So that is where I'm at going into the work week. And I got a couple more days of reading. We'll see what happens, but I will update you again tomorrow. I finished A Man Called Uva, and it was really good. I don't know if you can tell or not, but I was just straight up sobbing for the last like 30 pages of the book. Yeah, I don't know. It was just like really sweet. What I've been struck by with Frederick Bachman's writing anytime I read one of his books is that I think it's really incredible how he's able to take really simple language and just like express these really beautiful things. He's really good at characterizing people and making you really deeply care about all of these people, despite the fact that they have their flaws and their problems and they feel so real and important. I felt this as well when I read Beartown, and even when I read And Every Morning the Way Home gets longer and longer. Yeah, I don't know. I think especially with Uva, who starts out at the beginning being like really unlikable and rude and mean and despicable in a lot of ways, by the end, oh my god, you love him so much, you know? It's just like, oh gosh, it was really good. I very much enjoyed it. Man, am I glad that I stopped listening to the audiobook, because I think that actually reading it allowed me to get through it a lot faster. And because it's a book where not that much happens, the audiobook was a rough format for me because I couldn't read as quickly as I wanted to get through it. Yeah, wow, I really liked it. Oh man. I'm not like a super sad person, but I cry really easily. And so anytime there's anything like really sweet or happy or sad or anything in books or movies, I'm done, I'm gone. But it was really good. I loved it. Let's just take a minute now before I leave you to kind of wrap up where I ended this week, where I started this week, and whether or not I've met my expectations. So I started this week with 7 books that I was in the middle of that I wanted to try to close up. And those 7 books were Red Seas Under Red Skies, A Man Called Uva, Hero of Ages, Obit, How to Pronounce Knife, Night Sky with Exit Wounds, and Johnny Appleseed. And now, today, by the end of the week, I decided to DNF Red Seas Under Red Skies and just like clear that out of my mind. I'm going to read Night Sky with Exit Wounds over the course of the summer with my friends, so I didn't bother touching it this week. And I finished Obit, How to Pronounce Knife, and A Man Called Uva, and I read about 100 more pages of Hero of Ages. So of the 5 books that I potentially could have finished, I finished 3 and made reasonable progress in the 4th one. And you know what? If I had not decided to do this vlog, I don't think I would have read a single book this week. Just because I felt really overwhelmed about being in the middle of a lot of things and I didn't know what to pick up. And often when I feel like that, I just kind of disengage. But I managed to finish 3 books, which is very exciting. And I loved every single one of them, which is even more exciting. I'm going to consider this vlog / challenge to myself a success. So yeah, I feel pretty good about this. I feel this is a good place to end the month of June. Thank you for coming along with me for the ride and sticking with me, holding me accountable, sort of. And that's all I have for you today, so I will see you in the next one.